Hello again, fellow tubers, and welcome once again to the Stinkbug Works, the super secret research and development division of Dr. Jet Laboratories. Today I thought I'd show you again some progress on the 12-inch challenge and talk about what is the real challenge here. And that right there is the real challenge here. These are tiny little motors. They don't have a whole lot of torque. And finding a small enough propeller is a real challenge. Now, I'm using an old version of Fecalc, and it's close enough, and I can plug in the kV numbers and the resistance and the no-load current numbers for these motors and get a pretty good idea of how many amps these things are going to draw, and such. So over the years, it's been a fairly accurate indicator, and even with a 26 millimeter prop, the amperages, while not high in everyday thinking, anything above 10 amps is something I don't want to do, and I certainly don't want to do 20 amps. These motors could handle it, but I don't want to do it for a number of reasons, cooling and yada, yada, yada. So we'll see. So in our last episode, I talked about, making the shaft here. And so I've made now another shaft. And this shaft, instead of a drive dog, I made a drive dog replacement fitting. And I took the 3 millimeter threaded end, and this stuff turned out to machine fairly well, so I machined it down, and I put 2 millimeter threads on it. So it'll work with this readily available 26 millimeter Grotner prop with a 2 millimeter thread, or this little guy I found somewhere on the internet. And this guy also has a 2 millimeter thread. So I don't know. For these real high kV motors, this one's 3100, this one's 4800. I know a lot of you guys are using 5200s. They're all over the map for these motors. So think about propellers, 'cause propellers are going to be a real bugaboo. There's also, don't just look for propellers. You need to think outside the box. Yeah, I was thinking that the glass is not half full or half empty. The glass is actually twice as big as it needs to be, but I digress. When you're looking at props, don't just look straight at props. Be willing to think outside the box and say, hey, look, this prop has a nice profile and an appropriate diameter. Looks like it's probably at least 1.2 pitch and probably 1.4. I could just steal this prop from this wind-up toy motor. So there's a lot of possibilities. So in this little prop shaft, for all these possibilities I have, remember I said I bought this one shaft on eBay, and it was long enough to make 3 shafts. This one, of course, hasn't been assembled. I'm deciding what to do to the end. This one, again, I machined it down. This one will get some kind of treatment. So enough about drive shafts. My servo linkage, I like these little tiny clevis pins that work with this little light Sullivan cable, and there's enough cable there that there won't be any water getting in there, and a touch of grease and we'll all be good. I also said I'm building, when I make a design, I always build a couple of prototypes just to see, what I like and so forth. So this is the solid balsa one. We'll see how it does. I'm going to run this 4,800 RPM per volt motor in here on 2S, and I'm going to run this 3,100 RPM per volt motor in here on 3S. And according to my numbers, I can push an X427 that's been reduced to 1 inch. This one's still 26 millimeters. It could come down just a tiny bit more, but we'll try it and just keep an eye on temps. So around 26 millimeters seems to be workable. We may have to consider smaller or other alternatives. And this reminds me of something I wanted to tell you folks. Big B, for his first plan in the 12-inch challenge, actually designed and built a 1/8 scale Needler hydro. And I think that is an absolutely brilliant design. It's 1/8 scale, but it's 12 inches long. So it would meet the requirements for this challenge, but because of all the scale features, it probably won't be as fast as, something like this. But in my searching for propellers, I found this little wind-up outboard motor, which is roughly 1/8 scale. So I think we need to come up with some plans for a 1/8 scale Needler hydro in the future. And I'd run the motor inboard, and this would just be a dummy, and I'd cut this bottom off and just put a rudder blade down there and have the rudder blade behind the propeller. That way you'd have the effect of the outboard, but it would really just be the rudder. Keep it simple. Okay, I think I've touched base on everything that you need to know at this moment in time. Until next time, jet out.